Okay, so I live in Turkey, and in Turkey we have this class called Religion and Morality that you take since third grade if the state considers you Muslim. That's something that you can change, but even if you don't believe in the religion, it's a hassle to go through, so most people don't change it, right? Anyway, that's besides the point. You take it since third grade, right? So the ripe age of what, 8, 9, something like that. I personally, when I was in middle school and elementary school, I went to like a relatively smaller town on Western Turkey. Those places are generally more progressive, but the town I was in was still kind of small and conservative. I don't remember much about my elementary school teacher. By the way, in Turkey, like third and fourth grade is considered elementary school, and like up to fifth to eighth is considered middle school. I don't remember much about my elementary school teacher, but I do remember some crazy things that my middle school teacher told us. Since, the classes were considered more serious there, since it was a smaller town. When I went to high school, however, the classes weren't really taken seriously because most of the kids in the classes were atheists anyway, and the teachers there knew that, the kids didn't want to learn about some random religious things too. So it was just mostly a class where we did whatever we wanted. Sometimes occasionally like had debates with the teacher, but that's not about that right now. Even when I was in middle school, religion class was considered kind of like a background class. Just do whatever you wanted to do, and the teacher was kind of cool about it. Like he would tell us cool stories and whatever, and he would let us play around like we wanted to when he was done doing the class. So we thought he was a cool guy when we were in school. But after, at least for me, after I grew up and started kind of critically analyzing the things he actually taught us, I started realizing how much of a crazy guy he was. Like, he would always make those weird PowerPoint presentations. It wasn't really presentations because instead of having its own presentation mode, he just has the frames on the side and he clicks the frames one by one. Maybe he doesn't really know how to use the PowerPoint. I don't know. I'm not going to use that against him. But he would often make those like crazy presentations that I don't even know were in the, like, I'm not sure if they are in our curriculum, first of all. I'm not sure if they're in the Quran even. Like, I don't know if the things he said were factual to the religion he was teaching in the first place. Like once he was telling us about some random society or whatever. I didn't pay much attention to it, to be honest. But he was explaining to us how like this society got destroyed by Allah, obviously, because they were so sinful and evil, right? But he was talking about like, okay, look at these massive giant monuments, whatever. Do you think humans could have built that? No, they couldn't have. The answer is giants. Giants built that. This was a society made of giants, and they were all sinful. So Allah destroyed them all. And this is why we don't have giants in this world anymore. And he used, I think if you spend any time on the internet, you know the picture that I'm talking about right now. I think the picture was made in some kind of Photoshop context, I think. I saw this in another video before because it was also used by some weird conspiracy theorists or Christians, I don't know, some weird fringe group like that, right? It's like some guy, there's a big giant skeleton, and some guy is rubbing the dirt off of that as if he just discovered it. And he used that picture that was made in a photoshopping contest for his PowerPoint to prove that giants were real. He used internet misinformation to prove us that yes, this tribe existed and Allah destroyed them because they were evil or something like that. I always see this. That's the something about the child mind is amazing. When I first heard that, I didn't know like people could make photoshops that looked that realistic, right? I wasn't really tech savvy as a kid. This happened in middle school, probably like sixth or eighth grade, or I'm sorry, sixth or seventh grade or something like that. I wasn't really a tech savvy kid. I didn't know that Photoshop could be so advanced. But even when confronted with photo evidence, I was like, no, this can't be right. Like I knew intrinsically, I knew that if giants had existed, I would have probably heard about it from somewhere else. Like, dinosaurs existed. They were like giants, insane lizards, bird things that existed thousands of years ago. And we heard about it. We have thousands of franchises about it and thousands of toys and books and whatever about it, right? If giants had existed, this tribe of giants that had existed and got destroyed by Allah or whatever, they would have millions of TV shows made about them. And as a child, right now I'm saying that as an adult, but as a child, even though I couldn't articulate, I just knew that this guy was full of shit. And it's kind of crazy to me how him, as an adult, I don't know if he actually believed in the things he said, but as an adult, he said it and like he taught that to us as kids. So he must have like believed in it to a point, right? Like he must have believed in it, even if it's a little bit, he must have believed in it. He believes in some god that lives in the sky, dude. He must have believed that giants existed. And he wasn't able to come to the logical conclusion that I came as a child. Like, that's kind of crazy to me. And another conclusion that I came to as a child was that being gay was okay and you shouldn't judge people based on sexuality, right? We had gay fanfiction in Turkey at the time that I was in middle school, at least. Right now, I don't think Turkish teenagers have gay fanfiction because they banned Wattpad, but whatever. At least at my time, during my times, we had it, right? So this guy, imagine, I'm in eighth grade, right? I read gay fanfiction. I am a young child. I don't know what the real world is like, kind of. I know homophobia exists, but like even though it's a smaller conservative town in Turkey, like my friends are making gay jokes. My friends also read gay fanfiction. Like the boys at my school make gay jokes and talk about kissing each other. Like they are fairly okay with the fact, right? Here come this man, adult man, randomly. I think this incident happened in like, I don't know, maybe 2019, 2018, something like that, right? I don't know what sparked this rant in him. So maybe if there are any football fans watching this, you can tell me the answer. Because he was really mad at some English footballer wearing like a pride flag thing on his arm. So he came to school that day and dedicated one of the lessons. He gets two each week, okay? So he dedicated one of the lessons that week to talk about how much he hated gay people. And I was like, the whole time, I was kind of sad because, like, homophobia is bad, guys. I was like, no, my little gays, my gay fan fiction. Well, how do you say it's bad? But intrinsically, I was like, holy shit, adults know what gay is. I was kind of more excited than sad about this rant. I don't think that's the conclusion that he wanted us to come to. But whatever. His rant was completely, he just went off the rails, just randomly. He was like, do you know what LGBTQ movement is? It's so bad. It's degenerate. It's destroying our culture. He was just saying all these things while we were just sitting there. Like no one had ever brought that up in him. It was so obvious that he just watched the game last night and then he saw this guy wearing a pride flag on his arm and he got so mad at that he came to school the next morning and started ranting at us about it. It was so funny, man. I remember it so well because he physically got a pen, right? He got a pen, he drew on the whiteboard. He was like, oh, you think it's okay, right? You think everyone can do whatever they want with their own life? Well, no. Let me just draw you an example of why that's not the case. He got a pen, he drew on the whiteboard like a boat, okay? Imagine a boat. It has two layers. At the bottom layers is the gays. That's where the gays go, at the bottom layer of the boat. And on the top layer is us, normal people. And he was like, see, this is the homosexuals. And this boat is our society that holds us all together. And he drew the gays. He drew homosexuals as making a little hole under the boat. And he was like, see, these guys are making a hole under our boat and sinking our ship. It's killing us all. It's destroying society. And that's why you should hate gay people because they're making a hole in the boat. It was so funny, man. I don't know. Like, at the time, I didn't find it funny because I was a kid and I took everything very seriously. But right now, thinking about it, like, imagine some guy getting so mad at some game he watched that the next day he goes to class and draws a bolt on on the whiteboard being like, see, this is why gays are evil because they're making a little hole in the boat. This English guy wearing a pride flag on his arm is literally destroying our society. That's so funny, man. He taught the whole lesson about how being gays were evil, whatever, whatever, right? At the end, right? At the end of the lesson, he goes, but being trans is cool though. Like trans people have their own demons that they're fighting with. Like if you look at the chromosomes of someone, sometimes people on female bodies can be born with male chromosomes. So that means that it's okay to be trans. Like Allah gave everyone their own demons to fight with, and we shouldn't judge other people for what they're fighting with. And you should be nice to trans people. I'm not even joking to you. I'm not kidding to you. This is literally what he ended the lesson with. You know, you really gotta appreciate the guy's fighting combo here. He's like, gay people are evil, degenerates, destroying our society, but trans people are fine though. And then you're like, wow, whoa, plot twist. And then he sprinkles misinformation about intersex people as a little cherry on top. It's really funny. If you still confuse trans people with intersex people, I don't have anything to say to you. Um, it's his fault, probably. He did this to intersex people. Be mad at him. Speaking of misinformation, sometimes he would say things to us that, again, I'm not sure if they're written anywhere or if they're, at least, I don't know if these are headcanons that he has about things or if these are actual things that are said about the religion that he's talking about. Like, for example, we have a curriculum, right? In the curriculum, we always talk about, like, we always cover the same things because there's a limited amount of things that you can say about a certain religion at some point, right? We always say, oh, Muhammad was a human person, like, you know how Christians say that Jesus was also God. So Muslims really don't like that. They think that Jesus was a prophet and Muhammad is also a prophet and he is a human person. It's very obvious, like it's very important, or at least to them, that Muhammad is a human person and he was not an angel or a god or whatever. And they always, like in the curriculum, they always phrase it the same way. So I kind of memorized it at this point. They're like, Muhammad being a human person made him relatable to human people, and this is why Allah sent a human person down to us, human people, right? He, or middle school teacher, was the guy who always taught us the same thing, right? Muhammad was a human person. He's human. This is why Allah sent him down to us because he's relatable to us, right? But as years went on, I guess, I don't know if he makes these headcanons himself or he just finds them somewhere. He would just start making random stories up about the guy. Like he was like, he was going to go to a wedding once, but the weddings were really sinful back then. There were so much evil things going on. So Allah made him sleep to the wedding, like sleep during the wedding when it was happening, so he missed it. I guess he was a child during the story. Like, I don't know, like this guy just gets to not commit sins. He gets preferential treatment by Allah. That's not fair, man. Like, if he's going to commit a sin, let him commit a sin. Like, that's, you just keep telling us how he was human, but then you're like, oh, but Allah loved him so much, he didn't let him commit a sin. That's not fair to us, other fellow humans, I think. But one of the most, like, egregious, I guess, things that he has said was apparently this guy, now you have to understand the things that we are made out of. They always taught us that humans are made out of mud, right? That we are made out of dirt. Humans came from dirt or alga, something like that. He was the whole time, right? He's like, Muhammad is also a human. He's a human just like us. Then at some point, like years later, I guess he got tired of this narrative or something. He was like, oh, but we have a piece of Muhammad's hair or beard or something like that. And if you look at that piece of beard, it doesn't have a shadow. Why? It is made out of light. So it's like, what, you know what's made out of light? Angels. So he's like an angel, but he's not an angel. Allah made him out of light, but he gave him the shape of a human. So he's a human, but he's a human who's made out of light. So he's kind of like an angel at heart. He has the mm, he has the doll of an angel, but he's a human. Like, man, what are we doing here? It's giving it's giving the angel galaxy kitten hybrid OC that I had when I was 12. Like you're just making headcanons about some guy that lived 1,000 years ago. You're giving him Mary Sue or Gary Sue powers here and just making up whatever things you want about him to make him into a cool guy in your story. I don't think that's permitted. And that's really lame, honestly. It goes against the curriculum that you're trying to teach us. You know what else? You know what else is going against the curriculum, I guess? Because I don't remember this being on the books. But okay, humans are made out of dirt, angels are made out of light. Jinns, that's what we call them in Turkish. I am not sure. I think it's called the same thing in English. Jinns are made out of fire or something like that. So this guy also dedicated an entire lesson to tell us about these weird creatures that exist on a different plane of reality, but they exist alongside us in our world. I remember the things he said so vividly because like I don't know, this memory is just so vivid in my mind. He just has like a smug way of talking, right? And he goes like in this very very smug way, he goes, "Ah, so if you are watching television, this is the exact example that he gives, right? So if you were watching television and you saw some people playing football, and then you turned off the channel to somewhere else, and you saw some people playing in the sea, you wouldn't go, oh, those people are playing football in the sea, right? Ho, ho, ho. So that's what happens with us and jinns. We live in different planes of reality. We are in the same television, aka the same world, but we are in different planes of reality, so we don't interact with each other in any way, right? This is the exact example that he gave us. Now, this is the exact question that I had for him. I raised my hand and I asked him, Sir, but what happens when we fuck up our ozone layer? I didn't use the word fuck. And I asked about the ozone layer because that was something that we still worried about back then. And he was like, I'm not sure. I'll get back to you on that. And he never got back to me on that. Man, it was funny. See, that was one of the times where I channeled my inner Reddit atheist and on those religious cocks, or algo, something like that. He was really adamant on how much these jinns existed. Like, for some reason, he was like, okay, we don't know about their existence because they cannot change our world as much as we do, because they don't have technology. Why do they not have technology? Because they're like really fast. So when they want to go somewhere or communicate with someone, they don't need telephones or trains or whatever. They can just run there and they're immediately there. And that's the only reason we ever needed technology to communicate with other people. So that's why they don't need technology. And that's why they don't change the world around them that much. So that's why we don't know or we don't notice them that much, but they exist. But like, man, so what, are they immune to viruses? Are they immune to bacteria or sickness? Do they not need technology for medical reasons? He would just always ask us to believe in these really weird things, and if you refuse to believe in them, you're gonna get tortured in hell forever. He will always talk about how like evil kafirs were. kafir is what we call them in Turkish. I'm not sure what we call them in English. You know, like people who don't believe in Islam, right? He's like, these kafirs, they will rot in hell and they will be so mad at Satan for deceiving them and they will get tortured forever. But there's no forcing people to believe in Islam, right? People who don't believe get tortured forever, but there's no force, okay? You cannot believe if you want to. This is why we are such nice guys, because we don't force anyone to believe. But anyone who doesn't believe is evil. But Muhammad once, when a Jewish funeral or something was happening, he, I don't know, stood up to show respect for him or something. And the people next to him were like, hey, this guy's a Jew, why are you respecting him? And he was like, he's also a human. So, you know, Muslims are so nice to people from other religions, but also if you don't believe in Islam, you know what's going to happen? You're going to get your head crushed repeatedly by an angel with a rock, like a watermelon. Your head will get crushed and then it will get regenerated. And then the angel will pick up the rock again and then it will crush you again. Your head will get crushed again, repeatedly, like a watermelon. Did I mention that? Yes, he actually said that to us. And I remember this happened when I was in like sixth grade. So we were like 12, 11, something like that. He actually looked at a bunch of 11-year-olds and he was like, hey guys, your heads will get crushed repeatedly like watermelons if you don't believe. But there's no forcing in Islam. We are so peaceful. I remember after I heard this, I wasn't like scared or anything. I was more worried about the logistics of the situation. Like your head gets crushed once and then it has to get regenerated to be able to get crushed again, right? So what? Do you die in hell? Do you need to come back to life to be able to have your head crushed again? If you don't die in hell and if you are still alive and sentient after your head gets crushed, why does it need to be regenerated? Like I feel like the angel's doing more work for no reason. Like he can just crush your head once and then your head is crushed. So you still feel pain because you're alive, because you cannot die in hell, right? Why does the angel repeatedly have to throw the rock if you don't die in hell? These are the questions that I wondered. And I that day I went to ask this to my babysitter at that time. Isn't it weird how we can die in hell? Why does it need to get regenerated? And she was like, oh, it's really fucked up how he told that to a bunch of kids. That's honestly really not okay. And at that point, I never even thought about that. Right when she said it, I was like, oh, right. That's actually torture, and he's threatening us with torture if we don't believe in his religion. That's kind of fucked up. I wouldn't consider myself an ex-Muslim because I don't think I ever made the conscious decision as an adult to actually be a Muslim. Like I was a child, you know, being indoctrinated by the age of 7, 8. People in my life, like adults that I respected who were my teachers, were telling me that this God existed. And I was like, okay, sure, maybe it exists. But what actually made me stop believing in it altogether was another incident that also happened when I was in sixth grade, right? So this torture watermelon thing happened earlier in the year, or maybe happened in fifth grade. I don't remember well, but it was neither fifth or sixth grade. This thing that I'm about to tell you happened in sixth grade, and I was probably 11 or something. I am not sure. He was telling us about some different prophets or whatever. He was like, you know, Adam was a prophet, and that Jewish guy was a prophet. Jesus was also a prophet, or something like that. He was telling us, oh, there are actually hundreds of prophets. Some of them have books, some of them don't, but they were all sent down by Allah or something like that, right? He tells us, he gives us general information about these prophets, right? At the end, I wonder. I ask him. I'm like, hey, sir, were there any female prophets? Uh, the answer is unsurprising. Of course there isn't. Why would Allah ever hire a silly girl to be his prophet, right? He just gives a really lame answer, being like, No, because it wasn't like during those times the females really couldn't talk. It was a time thing. But like I know you taught me repeatedly how Allah gave his prophets like certain miracles to prove that they were actually prophets. He could have just gave a female prophet some really cool miracle and everyone would have been like, whoa, this girl's a prophet for real. We believe her and we're not sexist anymore. But no, instead of doing that, because I guess our God is retarded, he just decided to never have a female prophet to begin with. This is what really shocks me about seeing female people actually believe in Islam. Because at that point, when he said that, I immediately stopped believing in this religion. It wasn't even like, oh, it planted like a seed of doubt in my head, and during the following years, I started slowly, like, no, literally at that second, I was like, okay, all of this is bullshit, man. Like, you've been lying to me this whole time. I, like, at the age of, like, let's be reasonable. Let's say 12. Let's say I was older, right? Let's say 12. Like at the age of 12, I had more respect in my own humanity than some things that some guys told me were real. So, what really shocks me about female Muslims is that they don't like, they are genuinely incapable of recognizing how absolutely misogynistic this religion is. And they actually believe in it. Sometimes they actually even cover their head and their whole face because they think that the God would actually hate them this much. They aren't able to come to the conclusion that I came when I was 12. This isn't even funny. I'm not even going to make a joke about this. This is honestly really sad. And I don't know how it's like in other countries, but in Turkey, people, most people, I feel like would pretend to be a Muslim, even though they don't follow most of the rules of the religion that much. Like they don't pray 5 times a day, they don't fast that much. Like they still feel the need to LARP for some reason because it's a part of the culture or whatever. And it's really treated badly when people kind of force or say that women have to cover their hair, right? Like saying that Islam is fake straight up generally get met with some pushback and anger, but saying that women should cover their hair often also gets met with pushback, and you're not really allowed to say that because obviously, you know what our middle school religion teacher told us though? Yeah, so he wasn't as crazy as some people to the point where he actually thought that women should, not even women, you know how some crazy, disgusting perverts covered the hair up of their toddlers? He wasn't that disgusting, at least. He thought that women should cover up their hair since they hit puberty instead. And personally, I started getting my period at the age of 12. So at the ripe age of 12, I need to think about being modest and need to cover up my entire body, except for my face and hands, because those are the only modest part of the human body. Everything else, oh, these are too spicy, don't look at it. I remember he was like, okay, so how many of the girls went through puberty right now at our class? And most of the girls raised up their hand, right? This also happened in sixth grade. We were also probably 12. But I do remember this happening after the female prophet incident because I was specifically mad at him for it. He was like, okay, most of you guys went through puberty, right? But I'm looking at you and none of you have your hair covered. No, 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 no. You have to cover up your hair if you want to be a Muslim. And man, that's so disgusting. Like, oh my God, he didn't force us to do anything, obviously, because he didn't have the power to. Like, if he went on this topic and he kept telling us to cover up our hair, I'm pretty sure one of the students would tell our parents. I didn't for some reason when it happened, but I'm pretty sure one of us would tell our parents, and he would definitely get in trouble for it because telling little girls to cover up their entire body to be modest is disgusting. But the fact that he even mentioned it to the amounts that he thought he would get away with is disgusting. Oh man, I can't even make jokes about this because, like, the nature of this religion is really perverted and misogynistic and bad. But one of the more light-hearted things that he was mad at was guys standing up to pee for some reason. Like, he always mentioned that. He was like, how disgusting of these Muslim men who stand up to pee. Wow, they have pee going everywhere and they are disgusting. And it breaks their thing, those that ritual that Muslim people do to make them magically clean or something. I don't know the name in English. I will not bother to look. It breaks that thing, the magic cleaning ritual, and they are disgusting and it's immoral. You should not do it. So, at least he also made fun of the morality of guys, but not enough, I think. That magic cleaning ritual thing is obviously kind of silly. They just didn't know how germs worked back in the day, so they just made up some random things that they thought would make them clean. But now that we know how soap actually works and how diseases work, we don't really have to follow that anymore. So to me, it just obviously proves that this religion is fake, like all religions. But something else that also always made me feel kind of iffy, kind of weird as a child, is that like the way that our religion teacher, at least, I'm sure everyone talks about it the same way, but like talked about the world and humans' place in this world was always like, oh, us humans, like everything you see, these animals, sky, etc., etc., they were made for you. Allah made it all for you specifically. Like this was it's kind of like a slogan that was repeated over and over again. Like there was some, I don't know, like story. I'm repeating all of these things out of my own memory, so maybe it doesn't. I'm not getting all the details right, but some guy was about to sacrifice his son for Allah because Allah asked him to. And then, right when he was about to sacrifice his son, like some other guy came and said, no, Allah told you to sacrifice this goat instead of your son, and then saved his son. I don't know either, man. Like, it's supposed to be a story of like, oh, these goats were made for us to sacrifice and eat for Allah. Like in the story, even though Allah asked the guy to sacrifice his son first, like it's supposed to be a great show of like his empathy for humans, his mercy, that he was like, oh, sacrifice your son. Okay, you can sacrifice this goat instead. See how I wanted you to kill your son and then told you not to kill your son? I'm such a great God, aren't I? Like, it's stupid. I know. But also, this way of looking at life and being like looking at animals, other sentient beings, and thinking these are all made for me to use. These goats only exist for me to eat them, only for me to like basically use their resources. I think that's a really disgusting way of looking at everything. And you have to realize that Muslim men also see women as animals, so they also see women as just creatures to be taken advantage of. The point I'm getting at with this whole thing is that Muslims have this certain holiday called sacrificial holiday, I guess. I guess that's the translation because they always use the word sacrificial specifically, where they sacrifice certain animals like cows or goats to Allah, and then they eat the meat and then they distribute the meat through charity work, etc. Like the basis of the holiday is just you're cutting an animal and then eating it. Normally you're not supposed to make it feel pain as you're cutting it, so it's normal. It's not that bad. Just using the word sacrificial makes it sound kind of weird, right? So our religion teacher was always obsessed with telling us about how evil Satanists were for some reason. Like, the people who worship Satan. Like, he was over and over, like, I don't know why he was so obsessed with that topic because Satanism, it wasn't even like a thing in Turkey. Like, in other countries, there was a Satanist panic happening, but in Turkey that wasn't really a thing, but he was obsessed with it for some reason. He would always be like, Satanists will be so mad at Satan when they go to hell because of Satan. He just kept talking about it, and he kept talking about how Satanists sacrifice cats to Satan. Like it was always cats for some reason. He always told us that Satans make this blood ritual with cats. Can you believe that they sacrifice little kittens? How evil of them. And then, after, like, I hear that, etc., I go onto the internet. I kind of pick up on, like, I'm kind of hanging out on English speaking places most of the time. And I find out that in other countries, most of the time, when they're talking about Satanists sacrificing something to Satan, it's goats. Like, Satanists sacrifice goats. It's always been goats there. But for some reason, this guy, when he's talking to us about it, he always told us that it was cats. Like to me, this just shows how like arbitrary all of these standards and rules are. Like, why didn't he say goats? Because they also sacrifice goats to Allah. You know about those like vegan posters when they put a bunch of animals next to each other and they're like, uh, where do you draw the line between friend or food? We should make the same kind of posters, but for religious people, I guess, of where they draw the line of something being an acceptable sacrifice for their deity. Like at one end, you put like a virgin maiden, and at the other end is a cow. Where do you draw the line? I personally draw it at kids, but in a way where it's okay to sacrifice them. He would also make like some atheists debunked Islam is so real type of compilation PowerPoints. I honestly forgot most of them because I didn't care about any of them. I only remembered one of the things that he told us about. Around that time in science class, we were also learning about how the electrons of an atom like circulate around its core. I don't know how to say it in English. And around the same time, he also made a PowerPoint. And in his PowerPoint, he was like, did you know that the way we circulate around that big black box, the one, I don't know its name in English, is the same way that the electrons of an atom circulates around its core? Whoa, how did Allah know that? And that, like, man, like, whichever, no matter whichever model of an atom you take, that's wrong. How did you come up with that one? That's everything that comes to mind when I think about my middle school religion teacher. But also, there was some weird things that happened in high school too. I know I just said that high school was chill, and it was. Most of our teachers were really chill. We just had a few funny teachers and a few funny interactions, and I might as well just share them right now too. During ninth grade, we had kind of a more passionate teacher about this subject. He would always teach us things, and COVID was around ninth grade for me, so it was over Zoom, so I pretty much don't remember any of it. I only remember one incident, and it's something, man. For so Zoom is open, the classes are over Zoom. One day he's talking about something. Again, I'm not listening. I'm doing something else in the background, but the sound is on. And all of a sudden, I hear my classmates start saying something to him and being like, "Sir, are you sure? Sir, sir? What did you just say?" And I'm like, "Okay, what's happening? Why is everyone all of a sudden talking?" Because normally no one listens and no one talks. And I start paying attention to it. I also open our group chat in the background, and everyone in the group chat is like, what did he just say? What is this guy talking about, bro? Did you just hear that? I'm like, huh? What is he talking about? And right when I start paying attention to what he's saying, he's like, you know what this guy says? He says, yes, you can choose to be a slave. You can choose to be a servant to a human being, but you can never choose to be a servant to Allah. What? It's like he's like he didn't use the word servant. He isn't like talking about servant the job. He's like, yes, you can choose to be a slave to a human. You can choose to be a slave, but you cannot choose to be a slave to Allah. Huh? I I Dude, I wish I listened to that lesson. I have no idea what he was talking about before to say this sentence out of nowhere. And they were like in the group chat, they just make like short comments about the things he's saying. And some of the like, I go about it and they say things like, is he actually just about to defend slavery? Is this guy defending slavery? And yeah, by the way, if you didn't know, slavery is a-okay in Islam. So he was probably doing that. I'm not sure. I also don't understand, like, why would you compare something bad, being a slave, being treated as cattle, to something that is supposed to be good to you, which is believing in Allah. His reasoning after saying that sentence, he's like, hey, like if you're a slave, you can just escape and or kill yourself. But no matter what you do, you cannot escape from being something that Allah created. You will always be Allah's servant in that way of thinking. Question mark? Question mark? Like, why would you compare that? It just makes it sound really bad, dude. That's not something that you would want. Like, he's like, oh, you can always escape. He said that, right? And or my classmates are going, sir, but that's not doable. Like, do you think that everyone just chose to be a slave? Like people are responding to him, and he's like, I didn't say it will be easy, but you can, there's a possibility. Even if it's 1%, you can choose. You're choosing it technically, but to be created by Allah, possibility of that is 100%. So you cannot choose it. You will always be created by Allah. Like, okay, great, man. Being created by Allah is like slavery. Thanks. After that, we also had a kind of a weird teacher. This happened in 10th grade, and we only had her for a singular day. Yes, I say her. She was like the only religion and morality teacher that I had in my entire life that was female. And we annoyed her so much during that one class that she just opted out of us. Like, she was like, I don't want to teach this class. I don't want to teach these kids. And she changed her own place. That's crazy. Or maybe she got transferred to another school, but she was only there for one class for us. And I don't honestly remember the thing that she said. I just remember that she was a pretty devout Muslim. And this is in high school. We are in a more progressive place, and like most of our class is edgy teenagers. Obviously, we're atheists, and since it's all edgy teenagers in there, all the high school boys who are just foaming at the mouth to debate with someone, whenever she's saying something, they're like, "Oh, but are you sure? Is there any proof for that?" At some point, I'm like, she was talking to us about some weird like wellness treatments, I guess, where you put some suction cups on your back and they magically make you feel better. She was talking about how she got that treatment and it really made her feel better. And I don't know how it was mentioned in the Quran or something like that. I just barely listened to it. I have no idea. But some guy, he would not let this go. He just kept talking about it. She tried to change the topic. He was like, okay, whatever. But he would not let it go. He was like, but did you know that there is no proof for this one? Like, did you know that this was often misguided and they did it wrong in here, and it was not true, etc., etc. Like, he was full on going debate, bro, on this woman. I didn't know why he was so passionate about this weird wellness treatment from thousands of years ago, but he just kept on like insisting how much she was wrong about this topic that she just got sick of us, and then she never showed up ever again. That was kind of the last thing that I remember, and this is probably the last story that I have, unless I remember more. Anyway, the moral of this video is that it's bad to indoctrinate kids into some random religion, and Islam is evil.